Good afternoon, dear participants and guests of the annual August Teachers Conference. We are broadcasting from the studio of Nazarbayev Intellectual Schools, where during the upcoming week we will be discussing and sharing ideas on the topical issues of our country's secondary education. Let me inform you that this year's August Conference is being held under the auspices of the 30th anniversary of independence of the Republic of Kazakhstan, as well as the 180th anniversary of the birth of the great Kazakh teacher and educator Ыбырай Алтынсарин. Students will hopefully be moving soon from the distance learning to the traditional learning. Our attentive and patient attitude towards the students and, of course, our ability to create an environment that enables each student's well-being at school will define to what extent the adaptation process will be comfortable and successful. The first 2 days of the August conference were dedicated to the primary school teachers as well as to the teachers of natural science, music, arts and physical education. The recording of these broadcasts are already available on our YouTube channel. Today is the third day of our August conference, and we are about to start the 7th section dedicated to the teachers of English language. We have a lot of interesting work to do, so let's start. Dear colleagues, you will be able to ask your questions in the broadcast chat during our session. Your questions will be answered at the end of it. I would also like to draw your attention to the fact that a nomination, the author of the best social media post, will be given to the person who will write the most interesting post on social media. Please, we kindly ask you to put the hashtag NISTamusConf 2021 for us to track your posts. You may find the hashtag on the lower right corner of your screens. The author of the best post will be announced on the official Facebook page of Nazarbayev Intellectual Schools. You may also subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay tuned. Good luck! A functionally literate student has a proactive attitude in life. We bring to your attention a video created by the Directorate for Education and Skills of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development.
Just as a compass orients travelers, the OECD Learning Compass indicates how students can navigate through an uncertain and rapidly changing ecosystem to help shape the future we want. It is an evolving learning framework that helps create a common language and understanding about broad education goals. Co-created by policymakers, researchers, school leaders, teachers, and students from around the world, the OECD Learning Compass defines the competencies, made up of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values, that students need to fulfill their potential and to contribute to the well-being of their communities and the planet. When a student holds the Learning Compass, he or she is exercising agency, the capacity to set a goal, reflect, and act responsibly to effect change, to act rather than be acted upon. But the student is not alone in this. He or she is surrounded by peers, parents, teachers, and the community, all of whom interact with and guide the student towards well-being. The Learning Compass shows that students need some core foundations before they can set off towards well-being. These include not only literacy and numeracy, but also data and digital literacy, physical and mental health, and social and emotional foundations. To shape their future and the future of society, learners need to develop certain transformative competencies. These are defined as the ability to create new value, reconcile tensions and dilemmas, and take responsibility for their own actions. These competencies are developed through a cyclical learning process, anticipating, acting, reflecting. As learners become more adaptive and reflective and take actions accordingly, they continually improve their way of thinking. While there may be many visions of the future we want, the well-being of society is a shared destination. The OECD Learning Compass orients learners of all ages towards that better future.
Excellent, and we continue our work. The formation of students' functional literacy is one of the main focuses of the program developed within the modernized educational content. Today, we have in our studio an expert in English language, Ms. Guljan Rıspekqızı. Welcome to our studio.
Hello, thank you. Hello, dear colleagues. Before we start our webinar, we'd like to present you one question quiz. The first winner of our webinar, the winner of our quiz will get a prize. So, please look at the question. Which idiom stands for doing everything in order to achieve or succeed in something? You've got 1 minute. Good luck. Thank you for your answers. We'll announce the winner after the webinar. Now it's time to start our webinar. Reading literacy is fundamental in learning English. Improving reading literacy contributes to the development of students' critical thinking, creativity, and analytical skills. Today, we'd like to present you the topic, implementing a guided reading approach for improving reading literacy. If you have any questions or comments, please write in the chat. Enjoy the video.
Hello, dear colleagues. My name is Olesya Vodopianova. I am a teacher of English in an IA school in Petropavlovsk. I am sure that all of you are in constant search of the most effective and interesting approaches that encourage students not only to activate their knowledge, but also develop critical thinking as well. Today, I would like to introduce you one of the approaches that help you improve students' reading and analytical skills. The theme of our webinar is implementing a guided reading approach for improving reading literacy. The aims of our presentation are the following. Present a guided reading approach for improving reading literacy. Introduce the key elements of the guided reading approach. Show the steps and strategies of scaffolding, and share the experience of implementing a guided reading approach. Let's start our webinar with a funny activity. Try to read the text on the screen. I am sure it will be easy for you. Is only speed important while reading? Did you understand the text? Answer the given questions and find out how you are good at text comprehension. Now check your answers, please. Before we start studying the features of guided reading, share your opinion about reading literacy. How do you think what reading literacy is? You can type your ideas in the chat. Speaking about literacy in common, we can say that it is the ability, confidence, and willingness to engage with language, to inquire, construct, and communicate meaning in all aspects of daily living. Language is explained as a social and cultural constructed system of communication. As for reading literacy, it is defined in PISA as the ability to understand, use, and reflect on written text in order to achieve one's goals, to develop one's knowledge and potential, and to participate effectively in society. What is guided reading? Guided reading is an instructional practice or approach where teachers support a small group of students to read a text independently. Why is guided reading? The practice of guided reading is based on the belief that the optimal learning for a reader occurs when they are assisted by an educator or expert author to read and understand a text with a clear but limited guidance. Guided reading allows students to practice and consolidate effective reading strategies. So, let's watch a short video about advantages of guided reading.
A reading program, and part of that is guided reading, is very important for learners to develop these skills to read independently.
It creates wonderful opportunities for teachers and children to enjoy books and share wonderful texts. But it also allows and gives the opportunity for children to broaden their vocabulary.
So when you look at the balanced literacy program, in which guided reading fits, you're really trying to develop, first of all, that love for reading. Reading is not an easy skill to develop, and your brain inherently is quite lazy. So you need to sort of make that reading something learners want to do, to motivate them, to instill a love for reading at a very young age. So that would be your first stage, like a reading to stage in the classroom and at home, hopefully as well. Then we move on to that shared reading, where students starting to read more with the teacher. You're interacting with the text through questions. We're modeling effective reading, the skills, the strategies, but also the expression you use when you read aloud. So here, students are really involved in this reading process, and hopefully we keep maintaining that positive attitude towards reading. Then we move on to guided reading. In a nutshell, guided reading is actually there to bridge the gap between that reading that the teacher is doing towards becoming independent readers, where students can really apply the reading strategies and skills independently on any resource that they read.
Guided reading offers an opportunity for those children to explore language and use language, particularly our second language learners. And this teaching of vocabulary in a familiar context has broken down so many barriers for this group of children. So they are now able to access text at their level at a more deeper and in a more meaningful way.
So guided reading is a very important bridge to help them become independent, effective readers.
The key elements of guided reading include before reading discussion. This is when the teacher introduces the text and takes the opportunity to teach students before the reading begins. The activity you can try is word search. Choose a few words from the text that may be difficult for students or words that tell what the story is about. Then have students sort the words into categories. Independent reading. During this time when students are reading, the teacher provides any assistance that is needed, as well as records any observations. One of the activity is sticky notes. During reading, students write down anything that they want on the sticky notes. It can be something that interests them, a word that confuses them, or a question or comment they may have, anything at all. Then share them as a group after reading the story. And after reading discussion. After reading, the teacher talks with students about what they have just read and the strategies that they used and lead students through a discussion about the book. Activity to try is draw a story map. After reading, have students draw a story map of what the story was about. A great source of materials for pre-reading and comprehension activities is the online media platform. Comprehension should be a quick check for understanding of what they have currently read. Here you can find lessons for different grades. Choose a grade, a term, and a lesson. And you are ready to teach your students. First, they can study the vocabulary, they are given definitions, and they can see how to use these words in the context. Here you can find different tasks of different levels. In this example, students work with the new vocabulary and check the text comprehension. Here you can start doing the task and see your mistakes, or check individually or in group. If you have any mistakes, you can see what are they. Here you have the task with the task comprehension of the text. Here you're given the text about Oscar Wilde. You can read and then choose the correct option. The task of different level, so the students can start with the easy task and finish with the most difficult one. They are various, so students won't be bored with doing such tasks. After finishing all the tasks, you and your students can check the results and discuss them. Here you can see your results. Then you can organize after reading discussion with your students. Materials on the platform can be used for work in the classroom or at home. Guided reading helps students develop greater control over the reading process through the development of reading strategies which assist decoding and construct meaning. The teacher guides or scaffolds their students as they read, talk, and think their way through a text. That's why scaffolding should be included in guided reading. It's a method which involves breaking learning into chunks to make the materials or skills easier for students to master. Scaffolding consists of front-loading new or technical vocabulary, highlighting the language structures or feature of a text, focusing on a decoding strategy that will be useful when reading, teaching fluency and or promoting the different level of comprehension, literal, inferential, or evaluative. Guided reading strategies are prediction, clarification and questioning, and summarizing. Prediction encourages students to draw on their own prior learning and experiences to allow them to make educated guesses on what may follow in the story. Prediction activities are great activities to hone your students' predictive abilities and comprehension skills, and then can be repeated often. They also have the added advantage of requiring very little preparation for the teacher. Prior to begin to read the chosen book, some pre-reading work is necessary to focus the students' minds on the task at hand. Here is an example of how to organize before reading discussion.
So we're learning to understand and how authors use point of view to reveal what the characters think, see, feel, say, and do. What is point of view? We've been talking a lot about that.
We understand like what the character's thinking, because if they didn't include that, they may be thinking the character's happy when it's actually sad.
Yeah, and it helps us understand an event better. So we're going to look at a little chart that we've made based on what the girl with the magic finger felt, her point of view in regards to the Greeks going hunting. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, let's have a look. What did she see?
She saw the Greeks shooting animals.
Yep, she saw the Greeks shooting animals. And how did she feel about that?
I got a little angry because why would the boy be killing animals for no point?
Mm-hmm. What did she do?
She put the magic finger on them.
Why did she put the magic finger on them, you think?
Because she thought they need to learn a lesson how animals feel.
Yeah. What was she thinking, Nevaeh?
She was thinking that she needs to stop them.
Mm-hmm. And what did she tell them to do?
She told them to stop, but Mr. Gregg said, mind your own P's and Q's.
And that got her really upset, and that's why. What did she do in the end?
She put the magic finger on them,
That's
on
right.
the whole Greek family.
Yeah, she put the magic finger on the whole great family.
For months I've been telling myself that I would never put the magic finger upon anyone again. Not after what happened to my teacher, old Mrs. Winter. Poor old Mrs. Winter. One day we were in class and she was teaching us spelling. Stand up, she said to me, and spell cat.
Do you know what I really like that you've done? Remember how you kind of stumbled on the words? I liked how you went back, you backed up, and you reread the text again. That's really good. Let's keep going.
That's an easy one, I said. K-A-T. You are a stupid little girl, Miss Winter said.
Now, what's that one?
Mrs. Winter said.
Yeah.
I am not a stupid little girl, I cried. I'm a very nice little girl. So, go and stand in the corner, Miss Winter said. Then I got cross and I saw red. And I put the magic finger on Mrs. Winter, good and strong, and almost at once, guess what?
Okay. What do you think that means? Then I got cross and I saw red. What does that mean?
That means she got cross and then like her cheeks went red.
Yeah, but what does cross mean? How do you think she's
She got
feeling?
angry.
How do you know she's got angry? How do you know
Because
she
it
got
says
angry?
cross, and cross normally means angry or upset.
What to it?
We might start from here. Then I got cross.
Then I got cross and I saw red. And I put the magic finger on Mrs. Winter, good and strong. And almost at once, guess what? Whiskers began growing out of her face.
All right. Now, why do you think this word is in italics?
What is that?
Italics is when, the words are a little slanted. Why do you think this word is in italics?
Maybe because the whiskers are thin, and maybe they've done a thin too, or maybe like when you write some words, you write it wobbly and stuff like.
Why do we do that? Why does the author do that, you think?
So the book can be more entertaining.
Do you think the author wants the reader to shock the reader or to focus on that particular word? I mean, guess what? Whiskers began growing out of her face, and because it's in italics, we have to sort of focus on that word and read it a bit differently. Because we're shocked. Whiskers began growing out of her face. Do we want to try that again?
Okay.
Yeah.
Whiskers began growing out her face. They were long black whiskers. just like one you see on a
Just
we
have to go back and reread, all right? So in today's guided reading session, the focus for that group was looking at point of view.
Clarification and questioning. In terms of guided reading, clarification refers to first identifying the difficult parts of the text before making sense of them through a variety of clarification techniques. These techniques can be as simple as looking up a word in a dictionary. There are other tools available to students, however. Often when students look up the meaning of a word in a dictionary, it helps clarify the meaning of the part of the text in the short term. But sometimes the word's definition is not retained for the next time the students comes across it. Sometimes it's better for the students to use other techniques to work out the meaning, such as employing contextual clues. To support students while discussion, some clarification and question prompts can be used as scaffolding to help students to identify the areas of the text they are unsure of before moving to the question prompts to help them begin to work out the meaning and significance with the text. When students have identified the vocabulary, phrases, sentences, paragraphs, and sections they are giving them trouble, they can then move on to the forming question using the following question prompts. Summarizing reading. Summarizing is an important skill for students to develop. It helps students to identify the most important part of a text or story and to learn to ignore irrelevant details and information too. Students who practice summarizing learn to integrate the details and the main ideas of a text in a meaningful way. A simple way to encourage students to summarize a story is to ask them to paraphrase it in their own words. As it will be highly unlikely they will have memorized the entire story word for word, paraphrasing the story will allow you to assess their overall understanding of what they have read. To encourage your students to summarize a text, ask them to answer the following 4 things. What are the main ideas in the piece? What are the most important details or points made? What details or information is irrelevant or unnecessary? What are the keywords and phrases in the text? If they have photocopies of the story, you may wish to have them underline or highlight the information related to the above questions in different colors and then ask them to retell the story in their own words after they have done this. Encourage them to use the keywords and phrases used in the text in their retelling too. Here is an example of the lesson from the international context of how a teacher summarizes a story.
So today we're going to read a story, a special type of story that's called a fable. And a fable has a special message at the end. Okay, but today we're going to focus more on the character feelings like we did with our whole class focus. All right? We're going to be looking at the 2 characters in the story, the lion and the mouse, and how they might be feeling throughout the story. Because I think their feelings change a little bit. Rizma, what can you tell from the front of how they're looking at the moment? What do you think? What can you tell me?
Happy.
Okay, who looks like they're happy?
The lion.
Okay, what makes you think he's happy?
The snow.
He's got a bit of a smiley face. What about the mouse, Nora? How do you think the mouse might be feeling?
Worried.
Ah, he might be worried. What's giving you a clue that he might be worried?
At the end of the story, maybe the lion will eat the mouse.
All right, we're going to have a couple of words in our story that we might have to have a look at. Now, does anyone know what these ones are? They're verbs.
Laughed. I thought it was laughed.
How did you know that word was laughed?
Because I have that in my reader. That's one of my words in my home reader.
Good job. So you've already seen this word in lots of other books. Okay, good. So I wonder who's laughing in this book. I wonder if the mouse is going to laugh or the lion is going to laugh. We'll have to see. This is another verb. It's a sound that the lion makes. What is it, Nora? Roared. And we've got our ending here, a little bit like laughed. Because it's already happened. This story is in like the past tense. Okay, the story's already happened, so we've got some past tense verbs there. Let's say them together. Roared, laughed. Okay, you're going to see those words today in our story. Now, as you're reading, I want you to think of two things. The first thing is, how is the character feeling throughout the story? The lion and the mouse. And then another thing is, what message might this story be telling us? Because it's a fable, it's going to give us a little message as well. Good girl.
The lion woke up. The lion woke up. Got you, he said. Said the mouse. Please let me go. Please let me go. One day I may help you.
Let's look at this picture here. How do you think the mouse is feeling here? How do you think he might be feeling?
Worried?
Is there any clues that you can see that might help you think that he's worried? Maybe something that he's saying or something that he's doing? What makes you think that he's worried?
Because he done the
Yeah. Okay, let's say this together because there's an exclamation mark. Ee, said the mouse. Is there anything else that he says to let us know that he's worried? What else does he say?
Please let me go.
What's this at the end?
Exclamation.
Okay, so how's he going to say that? If he's worried, how might he say that?
Please let me go.
Keep going.
Please let me go. One day I may help you.
Does that sound better? Yeah. How else might he be feeling? He might be feeling worried. He might be feeling... What else might he be feeling by saying, please let me go? How else might he be feeling? How would you feel if you were the mouse and you've got a lion about to grab you?
Upset.
You feel upset as well. Keep going, Nora.
Yes, a mouse can help a lion. Thank you, little mouse.
Let's look at this page, Rizwan, because there's some little marks on that page that will help you read a little bit fluently with expression. What marks might help you?
Exclamation marks and talking marks.
And is there something else on the page that might help you? Something that's a little bit, look at these ones, dark.
Oh, dark red.
Because when you were reading, I noticed you read all the same. Because when we see the talking marks and the bold words, what do we need to do?
I'm making it a little bit louder.
So let's read this together. You're going to help me. We're going to do it together. When we get to the talking marks, I want you to change your voice. Because who's talking on this page?
The lion.
And also?
The mouse.
Right. Okay, so it's talking, so we have to make sure we change our voice. Off we go. And she did. You can get out now, said the mouse. Can you read that again for me like that?
You can get out now, said the mouse.
That sounds better, doesn't it? What about here?
See, a little mouse likes me. Did help a...
To get guided reading started in the classroom requires lots of planning and organization at the beginning of the year, but this initial investment of time and effort reaps richer words for students that is reflected in their rapid progress. Reading is important because it develops the mind. The mind is a muscle. It needs exercise. Understanding the written word is one way the mind grows in its ability. Teaching young children to read helps them develop their language skills. It also helps them learn to listen. Non-readers or poor readers often have low opinion of themselves and their abilities. Reading is important because words spoken and written are the building blocks of life. Here are the resources that were used in the presentation. You can use them to find more information about the guided reading approach. Thank you for your attention.
Dear colleagues, thank you for your attention. Our question was, which idiom stands for doing everything in order to achieve or succeed in something? Now, let's find the answer. The answer is at all costs or do your best. Now it's time to find the winner. And our winner is Zarina Musabalinova. Congratulations!
Ms. Guljan, thank you for your information and for your quiz.
Thank you very much.
Dear colleagues, we have prepared for you some useful resources that might be helpful in implementing the educational program. You may find them by following the links given in the description of the broadcast. Let me remind you that the current broadcast is being recorded and will be available to watch on our YouTube channel. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and have access to all the updates. And we move on to the next section, which is about assessment. Assessment is an important component of the educational process. It allows to track the dynamics of each student and identify the potential for their growth. I have with me in the studio an expert in criteria-based assessment, Ms. Saule Soltangazina. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Hello, dear colleagues. Today, we would like to discuss the format. And content of student continuous and final assessment. As you know, continuous assessment consists of formative and summative assessment. Formative assessment is considered as a process in which student learning is monitored in order to improve students' knowledge and skills, and summative as an outcome of learning on completion of a unit and a term. At the same time, it is important to understand the consistency of the assessment tools. Let's look at the examples of formative, summative, and final assessment tasks. These tasks are designed to achieve the following learning goal: deduce meaning from context in extended text on a range of familiar general and curricular topics. For formative assessment, we can develop a matching task where students are expected to find the meaning of certain words highlighted in the text. The descriptor can be used to give students constructive feedback. In this way, we can prepare students for summative assessment. In summative assessment for a unit, we can offer a reading task on finding the synonyms for the words given. Here we have descriptors and marks for each correct answer. In summative assessment for a term, we can ask students to find a suitable word that can replace the underlined word in the text without changing its meaning. There is a marking scheme to assess students' answers. The test specification of the final attestation reflects the same learning objective and tasks used above. The task is graded using a marking scheme. Ensuring consistency in assessment tools allows students to achieve good results in the final assessment. The analysis of student performance results give teachers an opportunity to use it for their lesson planning and teaching practice. It is also possible to define the most challenging learning objectives for students. Teachers can reflect on the learning process and work on narrowing the achievement gap. The ongoing analysis of the student's result in the electronic journal improves the quality of teaching. If we look at these examples, we can see that the teacher evaluates them with different frequency. Let's draw a learning trajectory for the students based on the results given. For the formative assessment task, we can see that the first student achieved mostly 9 or 10 points, and his learning trajectory looks like this. The second student achieved basically 7 points, and his learning trajectory looks like this. The third student was assessed only a few times per term, and his learning trajectory looks like this. As we can see, students demonstrated different levels of learning. We can track them which of the students needs support the most, so that teachers can plan individual work to overcome difficulties during the learning process. Now, let's look at some examples of formative assessment tasks and typical mistakes that can be made in assessment tools. This lesson covers the following learning objectives: develop with support coherent arguments, supported when necessary by examples and reasons for a range of written genres in familiar general and curricular topics. Write coherently at text level using a variety of connectors on a range of familiar general and curricular topics. And assessment criteria are: to use writing to reflect on the learned material, to demonstrate the ability to write grammatically correct sentences. These criteria do not meet the learning objectives. It is necessary to describe how exactly students should demonstrate the achievement of a given learning objectives. At the same time, the level of thinking skills does not correspond to the assessment criteria, since the task for this learning objective requires higher order thinking skills. Now, let's consider the example of this lesson with some changes. The task and the assessment criteria correspond to the learning objective. The level of thinking skills is application and higher order thinking skills. The descriptors provide step-by-step action for a student. Here are some examples of formative assessment tasks. As you can see, a student was given certain points for his work. As you can see, students certain points for his work. This type of assessment does not provide detailed feedback for the student and does not show what needs to be improved. In the second example, teacher gives the marks and brief comments on student's assignment. However, by analyzing the student's work, we can observe that the mistakes are repeated. We can observe that mistakes are repeated in the further task. It might show that the students paid attention only to the points awarded and the feedback was not detailed enough. In the third example, a student was provided only with the feedback. The student worked on his mistakes, and as a result, there is a positive dynamic in his learning. It means that providing students with constructive feedback can help to improve students' academic performance. Here is the schedule of changes in summative assessment specification. Last year, test specifications for grade 5 and 7 were updated. For this academic year, schools will use the updated test specification for grade 6 and 8. Please pay attention to these changes. Next, we offer characteristics of the summative assessment tasks from the updated test specifications. We can see that the learning objectives and task types have been changed. It is important to remember that while developing summative assessment tasks, we cannot change learning objectives, total mark, and allocated time, because this information is standardized for all schools of the country. To keep the consistency of all assessment types, the format of student final attestation in grade 9 and 11 has also been updated. In the traditional form of assessment, the final attestation in English in grade 9 used to be an oral examination, while in the updated content of education, students are expected to complete tasks on reading skills, consisting of 3 parts. Grade 11 students take a written examination comprising 2 parts. Part 1 consists of reading assignments. Part 2 includes a writing task. In order to develop high-quality assessment tasks that meet the learning objectives, we offer methodological support on the online portal smk.edu.kz. Here you can find various tasks on different difficulty levels developed for all 3 types of assessment. However, we kindly advise you to develop assessment tools taking into consideration the level of knowledge and skills of your students. Thanks for your attention. We are more than happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Saulia.
Thank you, Ahmara.
And we proceed to the next section. A teacher gains the most valuable experience through practice. Let's watch together masterclasses of our teachers.
Good morning, our dear colleagues. Warm greetings to the participants of our workshop. We, English teachers of Nazarbayev Intellectual School of Chemistry and Biology in Ust-Kamenogorsk, Batagos Kishubaeva, and Marina Yundina, are proud to present our ideas on principles of developing reading skills.
During this interactive workshop, you will answer a series of questions. Altogether, we will share our experience.
We are waiting for your active participation via chat box, and at the end, we would like you to give your feedback.
Let's start. And the first question is: what do students of primary, secondary, and high school usually read? Please remember to type your ideas in the chat box.
Thank you for your answers, and now let's turn to the students' opinion.
Every day, without noticing it, we always read something, and it can be anything. For example, every day we read newspapers or magazines, books, articles and news on the internet. We read the menu when we are going to order something. We read signs, messages from friends, event posters, and others.
I read books, magazines, comics, and social media posts, SMS, subtitles, journals, diaries, and calendar, and also notes.
To my mind, we read magazines, newspapers, also messages from phone, comics, recipes, many ads, and dictionaries, road signs, and of course books every day.
So we can draw the conclusion that reading plays a great role in our life. We read a lot every day, and most of our daily reading consists of social media posts, texts, messages, news, headlines, labels, menus, manuals for different appliances, etc. It means that our learners need to be acquainted with different types of texts and the best strategies for reading them.
Great! Now, I would like you to get the answer to the second question. Can reading signs be named reading? What can a learner understand from this railway station sign? Please, do not forget to share your ideas in the chat box.
Thank you for your answers, and now let's turn to the students' opinion.
It's a railway station sign. The sign's color is green, and the sign pictured a railway, a train, a platform, and a person. There are white. This sign is using for the passenger's safety.
It is railway station. We can see on this sign person at the platform. Also, we see train that arrives at the station. And we can suppose the rule not to stand close to the platform because it is dangerous for our life.
At the picture, we can see a railway station sign. A train arrives at the station. Also, we can see a person at the platform. Obviously, he's waiting for this train. There is a rule not to stand close to the edge of the platform because it is dangerous to people.
Yes, reading signs can be named reading.
Can you clarify if there is a connection between PISA and subject program?
Certainly, there is a straight connection. PISA Reading Literacy Framework defines several cognitive processes involved in reading. Locate information. Scanning a single text in order to find the information consisting of a few words, phrases, or numerical values. Look through the learning objective developing reading skills for students of the 8th grade and pay attention to the highlighted keywords. Understand, comprehending the literal meaning of sentences or short passages, typically matching a direct or close paraphrasing of information in the question with the information in a passage. Look through the learning objective developing reading skills for students of the 9th grade and pay attention to the highlighted keywords. Evaluate. Readers should evaluate whether the information in a text is valid, current, accurate, unbiased, etc. Look through the learning objective developing reading skills for students of the 7th grade and pay attention to the highlighted keywords. Reflect. Readers should identify how the author is presenting the information. Look through the learning objective developing reading skills for students of the 11th grade and pay attention to the highlighted keywords. Dear colleagues, now we want you to take an active part in the following reading activities.
Look at the picture and present your ideas answering the question. What do you notice? Just a reminder for you not to forget to type your ideas in the chat box.
A great job, thank you. Now let's turn to the student's opinion.
At this picture, I have noticed that it is a scarf and it has stripes, and these stripes only have 3 colors. They are light pink, gray and red. Also, we can see that every stripe has a different size.
In this picture, I see a long strip of different colors. In my opinion, it is a scarf because they have the same long length and size too. Also, the colors can be different.
It looks like a very long sock or a scarf with black, white and red stripes.
I have got 2 more questions concerning this picture. What do you wonder? What do you think the stripes and colors may mean? Type your ideas in the chat box, please.
Well done. Let's listen to the students' opinions.
These stripes can mean different kinds, parts, or length and durations of something.
To my mind, each color means something. Red is fire, anger, or maybe health and love. Blue is water and calmness. White is brightness and the sky. Maybe the person who made this wanted to describe these symbols.
Maybe colors can mean positivity of any action, like red is bad, gray is good, and white is neutral. And size of stripes may show us a duration of any action.
According to the original text, gray color means delays under 5 minutes. Pink color means delays up to 30 minutes. Red color means delays of more than half an hour, or both directions. We're working with a non-continuous text. The activity which you have just been busy with is called pre-reading stage. The main purpose of it is to help students integrate new knowledge with their background experience. Let's move to the while reading stage that includes such reading sub-skills as skimming, scanning, and reading for details. Skimming means looking rather quickly through the text and get a general idea.
We want you to look at the picture once more and write in the chat box a catchy headline that captures the main idea of the graph.
Wonderful! Let's compare your ideas with the students' ones. Scanning means finding a specific piece or pieces of information in a text.
Now, you will deal with scanning activity. The task is to fill in the gaps using no more than one word. There are 2 extra words you do not need. Please remember to write your answers in the chat box.
We want you to compare your answers with the keys. Reading for details is suggested to make learners more aware of how language is used. For example, we can ask learners to look for all the words in a text related to a particular topic.
Now, look through the text and choose the proper option. True, false, or not given, paying attention to the keywords. Write your answers in the chat box.
Great! We want you to compare your answers with the keys. Now, let's move to the post-reading stage. Post-reading activities help learners summarize their learning, get a deeper understanding, and organize their thoughts and ideas. Tasks for this stage can be different: summarizing, retelling, drawing, etc.
We suggest you discussing about the rail delay scarf. Please suggest your ideas answering the following question. What do you think happened to this scarf? Do not forget to type your ideas in the chat box.
Well done! Let's listen to the students' opinions.
I think that this scarf can be solved because of the popularity of this scarf. There are many people in the world who collect such things.
I think that nothing happened to the scarf and it still belongs to Sarah's mother, and it's getting longer and longer every day.
Maybe someday Weber will give this scarf to someone else who can continue this hobby.
As for original text, the knitting commuter sold the scarf on eBay and contributed the €7,550 or $8,650 for her favorite charity.
A great idea to sell this scarf. One question has sprung into my mind. What would you like to do with the scarf? Please share your ideas in the chat box.
Thank you for your job, and now let's listen to the students' opinions.
If I were in the place of a woman, I would like to create something like tradition. And my children will continue to knit this scarf, and when they start getting old, they will pass it on to their children.
I do not know what I will do with this scarf, but maybe I will always smile when I will look at this scarf when my bus is delayed.
I would like to sell this scarf because it has a value for commuters all over the world, and maybe it will be something very important for somebody else.
Reading is very important in our life, and we should remember that our students need to be acquainted with different types of texts.
Developing students' reading skills, remember about 3 stages of reading.
And of course, remember about principles of reading and analyzing non-continuous texts in your lessons.
Please give your feedback about the workshop. Scan the QR code to answer the questions.
If you scan this QR code, you will get useful links for developing reading skills among your students. Our workshop is over.
Thank you for your great ideas.
Be healthy and have productive and successful academic year.
Many thanks to our teachers for inspiring masterclasses. Excellent. We continue our broadcast. Dear colleagues, this year marks another special date. It is the 100th anniversary of Ибрай Алтынсарин National Academy of Education. Taking this opportunity, we express our sincere congratulations to the National Academy and we wish to its team all the success and prosperity. Today we have in our studio Ms. Diana Zhanabilova, Senior Research Associate of the Content and Methods of Language Teaching Laboratory at the National Academy. Welcome, Ms. Diana.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all and everyone present here today. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I congratulate you on the upcoming new academic year, which is marked with such great events as 30 years of independence of Kazakhstan and 180th birthday of Ибрай Алтынсарин. First of all, I would like to express my deep gratitude and sincere appreciation to all those who organized this event. And I would like to say that the August Conference for Teachers has become already traditional, and it provides great opportunities for sharing knowledge, highlighting key trends and current practices in teaching. On behalf of National Academy of Education named after Ибрай Алтынсарин, I would like to make you familiar with some amendments in regulations initiated by the Minister of Education and Science in Kazakhstan, and also give you some recommendations from the scientists of National Academy. To begin with, I'd like you to pay some attention to some priorities set by the Minister for this year. So as the COVID pandemic situation is quite unpredictable, the schools should be ready to teach in different formats, be it traditional, distant, or mixed. Then special attention should be paid to creating safe and comfortable space and atmosphere for all learners, including learners with special needs. Also, constant monitoring of physical state of learners should be conducted. Then the next thing to mention is that the work with parents should be enhanced, and also the schools can find sponsors to develop and support the school. One more thing to mention here is that the requirements for employing teachers have been revised, and now a new set of rules was formulated and sent to schools. The next thing deals with the teachers. The main focus here is on filling the gaps in the knowledge, as well as conducting individual work with weak learners, first of all. Here is a nice bonus for all of you, which is getting more academic freedom in choosing the course plans and teaching methods, not only in elementary school, but on all levels of school. Some new things here to mention are reduction of academic load for learner and reduction of workload for teacher. So now teachers will have to work only 16 academic hours per one wage rate. The next thing to mention is that the lesson was prolonged up to 45 minutes because we need to fill in the gaps in the knowledge of students. Moreover, formative assessment has become compulsory. It means that if you teach face-to-face, then nothing changes. Formative assessment should be given orally or in written form, it does not matter. But in case of distant teaching, then all the formative assessment will be marked and registered. Then 2 new subjects are introduced this year in the course plan. For grade 1s, there were designed new textbooks, Әліппе and Буквар, based on the ideas of Ahmed Baytursunov, the great Kazakh educator. And also a big course, elective course, is being introduced, which is called Global Competences. The elective course Global Competences will be conducted throughout the secondary and high school. So in grade 5, students will learn ethics, in grade 6 ecology, then they will pay special attention to emotional intellect and critical thinking, in grade 8 media literacy, and then secularism and religion. The high school will be devoted to entrepreneurship and business. 2 more things to mention here is that Dombra classes are to be held within the frame of subject music, but this year it is introduced only in schools with Kazakh language of instruction. As for physical training classes, you know that not all the schools have their own gym, and in some cities there are sometimes bad weather conditions, so 1 hour may be dedicated to such national games and games to the liking of learners as chess, toros kumalak, dance, table tennis. As for the upbringing component this year, special attention again should be paid to early career guidance counseling. And we would like you to introduce new projects this year. One of them is Reading School. This is a pilot project and is designed so that the learners might read about 20 minutes at school and at home. We will see how it will go, and the consequences will be pretty nice, we believe. Moreover, there may be conducted such projects as debates, student government, drama classes, and museum classes. Then national values should be instilled in school cultural environment. What we mean by this is culture in communication. So the greetings should be more formal, like good morning, good afternoon. Then the student-teacher address. When a student wants to address a teacher, he should call the teacher by name and the father's name or patronymic, like for example, Yerkinas Daurenovna, or students may also call teacher a teacher or miss. If a teacher wants to address a student, then he should call him by name, like for example, Arujan, Akmaral, Bolat, and many other names. Yeah. When teachers discuss something and address to each other, then they should use the name and the patronymic of the colleague. So this is necessary this year. And the research proved that the bell plays a very important role in the school system, and it can influence the nervous system of children. So it was some research was made, and the results showed that Şertpeki in the end of the lesson and Tökpeki in the end of the break beneficially impact the system of the learner. One more thing here to mention is that all memorable dates should be celebrated. They are quite numerous this year, so we can mention the 30 years of independence and the anniversary of Brei-Altensarin. I would also, let me pass to showing you the standard curriculum. Some changes were made here. Like, for example, in schools with Uyghur, Uzbek, and Tajik language of instructions, they lost the English component, the English subject in grade 1. So the first graders will learn only their native language, Russian and Kazakh, without English. The English language will be taught since second grade. In the second grade. And one more thing to mention here was made for the high school. The high school learners, especially those who are deep into mathematics and natural sciences, they will also have 2 hours per week of English. So we can see that it was that the number of hours was reduced by 1, yeah? But what is good news here that no topics was cancelled from the curriculum. So it's up to the teacher what and how to teach. Yeah. Then our scientists, the scientists of our academy, proposed a 4-step algorithm for filling gaps in the knowledge of students. So the first thing that the schools should do is to conduct the diagnostic test on all levels of, on all subjects. And then according to the results got from this diagnostic tests, they should plan their work out some way of going through the difficulties, yeah, of meeting the challenges. And then comes step 3, which is implementation of the plan, which must be done systematically and on a regular basis. And one more thing to be done on a regular basis is monitoring of students' knowledge to check the quality of the knowledge got. And we would like also to show you the algorithm for filling gaps in knowledge for foreign languages. Our scientists suggest 3-step methodics. Not methodics, algorithm, sorry. First one is identify the problem. It is again deals with the diagnostics. A teacher may have a written or oral test or open class discussion of something to understand where the problem is. The second step is to define the set limit and to appoint the time for classes. It might be either extra classes or a part of the lesson. So this is up to the teacher to decide. Step 3 deals with choosing the material where 3 factors should be taken into account. The first one is the volume of load of material to be learned, then the time for learning the material, and the age and individual peculiarities. As you know, some students can learn faster, some are a little bit slower. So one more thing is to tell you that the full text of the instructions may be found on the website of National Academy, where you can get using the QR code or by a Telegram bot or a mobile application. There are 3 different types. 2 of them are shortened versions. One is for administration and the other is for the teachers. Also, there will work a call center throughout August and September. So for more detailed information, you may call us. Thank you for attention. I wish all of you a fruitful conference.
Thank you, Ms. Diana, for important information concerning the upcoming academic year.
Thank you ever so much.
It is always interesting for us to know the opinion of our foreign colleagues. It allows us to consider the major global trends while crafting the educational process.
In the COVID context, we've moved largely from working in close proximity to applying social distancing and communicating through virtual platforms. Salamatsiz Bey. I send greetings to you, the NIS family, from the terrace of my home in the medieval center of Tallinn. Well-being and high performance. I will be drawing on some thoughts from the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development's The Future of Education and Skills 2030. This formal OECD working group, which includes NIS, brings together students, academics, and other educators, social partners, and policymakers to discuss the future of education and skills and to support local initiatives. In this talk, well-being and equity are the two key points discussed, as these can also lead to high performance. Let me begin by sharing some key findings from research that may surprise many, as they are not widely applied. Integrating physical activity into all subjects, be that health education, biology, science, maths, language classes, history, and even into recess and extracurricular activities, has several positive effects. It reduces bullying, anxiety, and the skipping of classes. The type of physical activity undertaken is also important, even in physical education classes. In some high-performing education systems, such as Korea, there is a shift away from overemphasizing competitive to stressing cooperative physical education. But the body is part of a broader system. If social and emotional skills such as self-awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making are taught to students, and physical activity is also integrated into lessons, it can contribute to improvements in student performance. So why is that? Let's start with the evidence on physical movement and learning. The evidence suggests that physical activity enhances learning and achievement. The body is not just a vehicle carrying around a brain. The body aids, expresses, and extends thinking. For example, in kindergartens, we know that integrating moderate to vigorous physical activity increases on-task behavior by 5.5%. In primary school, that figure rises to 10.5%. There are studies showing that with older students, that figure can be still higher. Importantly, physical activity increases the intrinsic motivation to learn, makes students feel more competent, and increases effort. All essential elements for improving learning. Importantly, when physical activities are integrated into classes, students do not feel pressured by these activities or gain a negative perception of the lessons. Also, data from 105 countries shows that 4/5 of students do not reach the daily recommended level of physical activity. Moreover, 60% of the world population is exposed to health risks due to inactivity. So what are some of the benefits of teaching social and emotional skills? In a review of 213 school-based programs involving 270,000 students from kindergarten through to high school. Durlak et al. Found that students in programs teaching at least one social and emotional skill saw an 11% increase in student achievement on high-stakes tests. A study in New Zealand following 1,000 young people for 32 years found that people with better self-regulation skills, a social-emotional skill, had improved physical health, less substance dependence, for example, on alcohol or cigarettes, better personal finances, and less criminal offending. Equity remains at the center of conversations in the OECD's Future of Education and Skills initiative. Inequalities were something that physical education establishments can to some extent compensate for. COVID-19 has increased the gap between the advantaged and the disadvantaged. What about us, says one student. Computer sharing and studying together have been presented among many possible solutions. But what do you do with poor or no connectivity? In conversations about equity, everyone's voice needs to have space and to be listened to. So, what about the shy people and those who may not have the words to stand up for themselves or to dream big? Many other needs are apparent, such as students missing out on school lunches and the safety of education establishments, and more. A key question is, how do we hear the students disadvantaged by the system? How do we, with the students, address their needs? Students taking the floor at the recent Global Forum on the Future of Education and Skills 2030 had numerous messages. A few follow. In addition to speaking of their gratitude to educators for the effort they have put into online teaching and support, students also had suggestions. A Japanese student named Kazuma spoke of the need for educators to provide sufficient explanations about the tasks they're asked to undertake, and to receive explanations about why the work is necessary and how evaluation will take place. Ardana from Kazakhstan, in discussing student motivation and the building of self-confidence, stressed the importance of encouragement, but pointed to the need to get regular, timely feedback, for there to be clear goals and assessment criteria, and to be able to see and experience progress. These are the tangible elements that build self-confidence and help students to learn. Several other students expressed that clarity of this sort reduces anxiety. Also, a student named Wesley pointed out, everybody is more than grades. Another student reiterated this, we're people, not numbers. A third student challenged us to find better ways of measuring learning. These and other students suggested taking a more holistic view. Interviews, portfolios, projects, looking at cooperation. A core message is we need to rethink assessment so it serves the aim of learning. Students in preceding OECD meetings on the future of education and skills consistently return to issues of equity and assessment. There is a concern that assessment is too heavily focused on judgment of students, teachers, schools, and systems. Tensions between objective versus subjective assessment have been discussed at past OECD Education 2030 meetings, as well as what is required to ensure the validity and reliability of examination instruments. There have been strong calls for taking a broader perspective, for using assessment to support learning. That would also involve supporting educators and students in better using assessment as a tool for learning. Assessment for learning is perceived by many students as having greater capacity for fairness and relevance. It is seen as more supportive of learning. Assessment for learning is believed to be better suited for seeing and supporting the whole person. At a global forum last year in Korea, students reminded policymakers and educators that we don't just need to learn to succeed on exams. We need to learn how to succeed in life. Those two things should go hand in hand. These strike me as astute comments for several reasons. The students are saying they need education to be meaningful, that is to say, to be connected to the real world, equipping them with the competencies needed for success in life. Assessment needs to help them to learn for life outside of education establishments. And if all this is going to go hand in hand, it cannot lead to curriculum and assessment overload. The OECD initiative is stressing that by focusing on well-being in education, we can add new value to education systems and people's lives, to society. And that can only happen if we focus on the whole person, as the students are asking us to do. Some might say, I don't have the time or energy to take this on board. Well, that is to ignore a substantial body of research that tells us that by focusing on well-being, we can actually improve student performance. Some references are offered at the end of the video to back up that claim. Well-being is an enabler. Well-being is only possible with integrative thinking. Focusing on the mind, the heart or affective side, and the body. That requires perspective taking and empathy, because if we don't feel empathy, it's difficult to understand other people's needs. That involves recognizing and regulating emotions and testing assumptions. That in turn can only be done with a solid knowledge base. And that is no doubt one of your key functions, helping students develop that solid knowledge base. Only then, with an integrative approach, can we begin to think critically. A few final points. If people in the world still believed in hierarchies such as this, the COVID-19 context has shaken that view, at least for many of us. We all need to learn from one another, to be vulnerable together, for no one has all the answers. We all must improve together our capacity to operate in this context. Stakeholders, including students, need to work together to ensure that well-being is included as an outcome of learning. Working together is only going to be effective with thoughtful co-agency. In other words, what stakeholders in the OECD Education and Skills Initiative are proposing is that we all need to work as co-agents, be that locally or globally, to take responsibility, to recognize tensions and reconcile dilemmas, and to create new value. And to do this now, not just in 2030. This is the new aspirational normal. I look forward to the day when we can meet face to face. Until then, all the best and rahmet.
Dear colleagues, thank you for your active participation in our session. We are very glad to see your active engagement in our online chat. We have received a number of interesting questions. Now our speakers will be answering some of them. I will be reading the question in the language it has been written in, whether it's English, Kazakh or Russian. Our experts will be giving their answers in the same question. Now, we have here some questions regarding the content of education. From the participant, Kuralay Sagındikova. Do you use these methods in your teaching at NIS schools? Why don't you show examples from your own practice?
Thank you for the question. In this webinar, we intended to show the fragment of the lesson in which guided reading is used and students' reading literacy is developed. Definitely, NIS teachers use this approach as well. In the future, we are planning to show some webinars and masterclasses. Thank you.
And we have another question from Mr. Rawan Birmagambet. Are guided reading strategies different or the same while teaching different grades?
Thank you for the question. Basic guided reading strategies are the same, but some of them are different. For example, for younger learners of lower level of English, teachers can use different pictures, illustrations, fragments of the videos, whereas for older students of higher level of English, teachers can use critical or analytical tasks and questions to challenge their students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guljan. Now, let's move on to questions about assessment. We have received a comment from Ms. Ulgan Aynakeyeva, which says, summative and formative assessment work is very difficult. Could you please give some advice or comments on this?
Thank you, Akbara. Yeah, it can be very challenging to create summative and formative assessment tasks. So here we can offer you the platform which is called smk.edu.kz, where you can find lesson plans with created summative and formative assessment tasks. Also there you can find methodological support with assessment guidelines and different other methodological guidelines that can help you to create, to learn how to develop formative and summative assessment tasks. Also, there is an online platform which is called Academic KZ, where you can find a course that can help you to learn how to create assessment tools. Thanks for the question.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Saule. And finally, we have questions regarding the organization of the educational process in the upcoming academic year. The question is from Ms. Dinara Narбекова, and it's in Russian. Добрый день. У меня вопрос. Новые предметы будут внедряться за счет английских часов или нет?
Дорогие, как это сказать? Дорогие участники, я бы хотела сказать, объяснить, что новые предметы вводятся не за счет английских часов. Сокращение программы, которое было сделано, произошло за счет вариативного компонента, а инвариантный компонент остался без изменений. Спасибо за внимание.
Отлично. Благодарю за ответ.
Спасибо большое.
Dear colleagues, our today's session of the August conference dedicated to the English language teachers has come to an end. Let me inform you that we will continue our work tomorrow at 10 a.m. with the section for the teachers of mathematics. We remind you that the recording of the current broadcast will be available to watch on our YouTube channel. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned. Thank you for your active participation. We wish you all the best. See you soon.